For this as well. Okay, cool. We're live. Thanks so much for joining me.
No problem. Happy to be here.
So yeah, why don't you tell us your name, a little bit about yourself, all that good stuff.
All right. I'm Kelsey Dangerfield. I am officially self-employed. I run my own business consulting and operations company. I am a mom of two, a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and just taking over the world one day at a time.
Love it. And how did you find us, by the way?
I found you on Instagram. You posted on like a postpartum moms page.
Yeah.
And I was recently postpartum. Yeah, it was recently postpartum.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, what's this? And you said I could drink wine.
Yeah.
And so that got me.
Done. Done. Hook. Cool. So tell me a little bit about obviously we chatted twice, right? And so this before you actually started the program, I guess what were you kind of struggling with?
I was struggling with trying to find Kelsey after babies
Mm,
and really getting back into knowing my own body again. So I know we talked January. I had my second daughter, my second child, my daughter, October 21. I
mhm.
talked to you in January
Yeah.
and we had a lot of changing going on and I didn't pull the trigger. I didn't join, but I kept to my brain. And then we moved and moved again. And then come August of 20, I guess that's 22, no, 22. So January of 22 to August 22.
Yeah.
I remember it was the end of the month and I was sitting like in this office and I was like, I feel like garbage. I'm tired. I can't keep up with my kids. I just feel gross. And I messaged you and reached out.
And I'm so glad you did. Tell me about what was kind of going on in terms of like, because you're like, I just felt gross. I felt this. Like, what were you um doing at the time with your nutrition and
Oh,
exercise lifestyle? Like, what were you struggling with there?
good question. Well, I tried to do other things first. I went and did Weight Watchers because it worked for me. Well, and I worked at Starbucks for a little while. And I didn't like that. It wouldn't let me eat the things I liked because I love peanut butter. And that would be an entire day worth of points. And I was like, okay, this is crap. Um, and that I didn't like. And I just felt slow. And I was trying to drink water and I didn't know what my body needed fuel wise. Like,
Mhm.
so I just ate, not realizing now that I've worked with you guys, like I had no protein. It was probably like all carbs and chocolate and peanut butter. So that it was really me just doing Weight Watchers, not feeling good, not liking the program, and just trying to do it on my own and not being successful.
Yeah. And what do you feel like? Obviously, like you've gone through the whole program now, right? We're like full circle over a year.
Yeah.
Uh, you've done the macro, you did the reverse dieting system, and then you're on the intuitive eating, like I call the instinctual eating phase. Like, how has that kind of like helped you kind of bridge, what you were struggling with beforehand?
I know what food makes me feel good. And I know when I'm bloated, I know what to relate it to and how to get rid of it, or just to be like, okay, this is just part of my cycle. It's going to flow, just get some movement in. And I think that's the most important part. Like, for example, we love yellow rice in this house.
Yeah.
And I never realized how it was affecting my stomach until I started measuring. And I realized I can only have like a third of a cup after that. And it's more rice. And so I've just become so much more in tune with what food triggers and what gives me energy. And it's a game changer.
That's cool. And what, like, going from the internal focus of, oh, this is how it makes me feel from an external of like tracking all my food, like, how does that transition feel for you?
It feels weird not doing like I like the transition though, because it was in my fitness pal. And then we moved into photos, which I like the photos because I'm way better at doing that.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I'm not measuring the protein, which is the one that I focused on the most. But
Right.
now I can see when I look at my plate, I'm like, that's not enough. Like for lunch today, I'm going to send my picture to Kelsey. There was only 3 pieces of chicken. It was left over. And I looked at him like, that's not a lot. I'm probably going to make a smoothie after my call with you just to get a little bit more protein in.
That's
And
pretty
it's just
cool.
cool.
Yeah, you're able to kind of like see it, instead of like having to track your food anymore and like
Mhm.
really know because you kind of understand like, oh, that probably wasn't enough protein, or that makes me feel X, Y, and Z. Because I've been reading all your check-in forms too, and you're like, it's crazy how I feel da da da, and I can like start eating when I'm hungry and stop when I'm full, and like like, what's your experience like with the like experiencing hunger and fullness instead of using like an app to tell you how much you should be eating and not eating?
It feels it's weird when like your eyes are always bigger than your belly. And
Yeah.
like I'll be eating and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm so full. And I'll look down and I'm like, there's still food left, but I'm good. Like I got all of the pieces that I needed, especially when you go out to eat. And it just feels good because you're more in tune. Like the other day I was getting snacky and I was like, am I snacky or am I thirsty? Which one is it? So I had some water and then I ended up having like an apple with my daughter later. But it's just cool. Like you're able to be more in tune with your cues, your hunger cues, and just get a better understanding. Like every time I eat dinner, especially pasta, like I'll eat a whole bunch and be like, oh, I want another helping. I'm like, okay, you probably can't fit another helping. You won't feel good. Like this is your line. So you start to know yourself better. And I think that's one of the things I love about this is I know myself better now.
Yeah, it seems that way. It seems like you know how foods are affecting you, portions, like when you're hungry, when you're not hungry. And
Mhm.
that's probably pretty freeing, to be honest with you.
It really is. And like now that I do it, my husband's more involved with what he eats. And we tell our son, he's 5.5, and we tell him he needs to have protein. So he just told my sister on the phone the other day, he's like, I've been eating protein for 20 years. Like I get so much protein. And so like now like I look at him like I'm building good habits for my
Yeah.
kids, even though he's not 25, but
That's great that he's like
yeah.
really like taking, like following your lead, both your leads on that. That's really cool.
Mhm.
So I know you started the program almost, what was it? So we chatted in what, January, and you started in August, so 8 months
End of
after.
August. Yep.
So and that's like a common thing I usually get. Usually, well, actually, I don't get that. Usually, when people don't sign up there, they just never sign up. So it's like you're like the unicorn that, and come back, you're like, I'm gonna do this. I'm like, okay, because we kept in contact. But I guess like someone who is kind of on the fence, like really wants to make a change, like really kind of knows what they're doing isn't working, likes the program, it makes sense to them,
Mhm.
but they want to wait to do it. Like, what would you tell someone in that position?
I'd say there's never a good time. And I think the one thing that I was so worried about was we just moved, we had a baby, we were looking for a house, we were trying to move, travel, it was just a hot mess. And at that time I didn't do it. And looking back when I did sign up, it was like, I probably could have signed up because you work with the coach and they make it work for you. So it's not like you start the next day and you throw out all of like the junk in the house. It's so realistic, and the coach helps you adapt to where you are in life. And I think that's the coolest part is it's tailored to you so you can actually sustain it. And that's the part that I love the most is I've been sustaining the weight I'm on, gosh, I think 6 months, and like going up and down 2 pounds and knowing why. And so if you're on the fence, just do it. It's like when everyone says there's no perfect time to have a baby, just rip the band-aid off because you're going to feel better in, gosh, I'd say like a month.
Yeah.
Once you start to find your flow, you feel so much better.
Absolutely. And I think like that's so important to just, yeah, this isn't like a cookie cutter thing that we're just starting you at crazy advanced place. We're meeting with where you're at and kind of
Yeah.
building from there. What were your exact results on the program, by the way?
I started after I signed up with you. I went way to myself and I was at 168.
Hmm.
And I'm down to 151, but that's because I had a lot of rice the past 2 days. So I've been going between like 148 to 151. And I think the funniest part is when I started, I was like, I want to be 140 pounds. And now that I'm where I'm at, around 150, I don't, I'm good. Like I feel strong. I feel like tighter, like my butt looks good. And I feel like a number doesn't mean anything when you feel it. It's just, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm
Yeah.
at.
A lot of people have the same thing. They're like, oh, they're like, well, one of two things. One is like, oh, I got so I did this program before, like I did a program in the past, and I got way too thin. Everyone said I looked emaciated. I was like, well, you probably lost all your muscle, and a lot of people are like, yeah, I think I want to get to, 140, but they're kind of thinking in their head of like, with the body composition they have now in terms of like the muscle, like you're gonna build some muscle in the process, and like things are gonna fit differently and look way differently and probably look better at 148 than you would at 140, with like extra muscle and all that stuff. So I'm
Yeah,
glad that you had that. Seems like a very sustainable number for you.
it is. And like, I just think about it now, I'm like, I don't know if I like, I don't think I want to go lower. Like I like where I'm at. I'm confident and
Yeah.
comfortable. And I look and I know that like I projected and like my daughter feels it. She's only 2, but she'll be in the mirror, like looking at herself and like, I'm setting the standards for her. So
Right. Right. No, it's great obviously you're noticing that, and kind of like there's a lot going into this, and you're on the last phase of this program, and I'm really excited for you to work through the whole entire program,
yeah.
and get to it and get to a place where like you have the skill of not tracking your food, and you can just, stay lean the rest of your life, which is really cool.
Yeah, completely sustainable. And I like the fact that I've done the same weight for so long because then it just gives me that confidence of like, I can do this.
100%. Well, cool. Thank you so much for hopping on mayhem already. Wait until 2 more kids come. Really, really appreciate you. Thank you for all your, this is the second time I think I've interviewed you, and I just really appreciative of this, like the person you are, the self-awareness you bring. So to the program, and it's just been such a pleasure to work with you. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for helping me get where I need to be.
Yeah.